Oops, it's all bars. Oh, what a mess.
What's up, y'all? It's your old pal producer Nate here with a special bonus treat for you today. Last month, our fearless leader and game master Jillian Ashley Blair Ivy got the chance to guest alongside our very own Killonian Stumps, aka Bob Killian, and Mo McGee on the What Did We Just Watch movie trivia quiz show podcast, hosted by Mark Nessel. If you're not familiar with What Did We Just Watch, it's a show where every other week, 3 contestants put aside their better judgment to answer questions about movies that may not be on your watch list. And then, along with the audience, they are challenged to remember character names, story beats, and plot details of that week's feature film, all while discussing some of the film's most fun, weird, and confusing aspects. If you're a fan of movies, trivia, and you don't take either that serious, then this is the show for you. Jill and Bob got to watch 2015's Dancin, It's On, the musical romantic comedy that stars winners and runners-up of the TV shows So You Think You Can Dance and Dancing with the Stars. And today, on our feed, we're going to share with you the first round of that episode. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy this snippet of What Did We Just Watch?
So yeah, the very first thing we tend to do on this show is try to go over some of the characters. Okay. There's not a ton of characters in this movie, so I'm going to describe the character, and you guys will buzz in and tell me the name of the character. I pretty much only need first names. There's only like one character with a last name. So the first question I have, what is the name of our female lead?
Jennifer August.
Yep, Jennifer August. The only character with a last name, if you don't
her
include
dad.
her parents. Yeah, her parents. Yeah.
I don't think her mom has a first name. Her dad has both a first and last name.
I think she is credited as Jen's mom.
You're exactly right that she is credited as Jen's mom, so she's not going to be one of the people I ask about. The next question I have, what is the name of our male lead?
Ken.
Yes, right. Ken. He doesn't have a last name. Yeah.
Sorry, I sang that a lot to myself while watching this last night. He was so angsty.
Yeah. He doesn't have a last name because, as we find out, he's an orphan.
And a dishwasher.
That's how that works.
Yeah. His you can assume it's like Ken Snow or something like that. Yeah. My next question, what is the name of the head bellboy?
The captain.
No.
Wait, that's okay.
Yeah. Danny.
Yes, that's right. Denny is the head bellboy, who's also a dancer in this movie.
Because why not?
Yeah.
Surprises us all.
Yeah.
I know we'll get into this, but I love the hierarchy that existed between the dishwasher and the head bellboy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As if they weren't all just like working class folk.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and like the head bellboy who's like got management in his future.
Yeah.
It was like, does everybody here understand how hotels work and what bellboys do?
Well, you could say the same thing about dishwashers too. In this movie.
The fact that it was just like, hey, dishwasher, go change this guy's sheets.
Yeah.
As the head bellboy, I'm directly above you, the dishwasher at this hotel.
It's like, sorry, to be considered to be an executive, you have to have parents.
If they had just called this guy like a general manager, it would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Well, in the first scene we see him, he helps her move her bags, and that's the continuity. It's like this movie was written in like a stream of consciousness. And they're like, well, he's already the bellboy, but he's also the main villain. It's like, well, we're stuck.
The main villain in the like lowest stakes way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Also a moron, as we'll get into.
God.
A true idiot.
And the Razzie for best actor, best worst actor
boy.
goes
Definitely.
to Danny.
Yeah.
The dubbing on, like the dubbing across the movie is really bad, but the dubbing on him especially, I don't know what it was about his ADR, but it's so bad. It never syncs up.
In his defense, everyone had to do their own ADR, and he's not super familiar with the audio. That's a joke, by the way. I have no. Maybe they did like have everyone do their own ADR, but I couldn't find that on IMDb. So the next question I have here is, what is the name of Ken's dance partner at the beginning of the film?
Oh. I was going to say Shotzi, but
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, right. No, yes. Ken's partner is Shotzi, which was really funny because then Jennifer gets mad because she finds out that Ken is dancing with Shotzi, even though he says, that's my dance partner, Shotzi.
Yes. Like they're pre-established and Jen knows that information, but then she's like, you're dancing with her? And it's like, yeah, they've been probably practicing for weeks.
Yeah.
You came a week before the competition, girl.
We have barely scratched the surface of continuity errors in
my
this
goodness.
movie. Like,
Also, just the name Shotzi. It's like a 1930s Judy Garland movie. Like the third person on the casting list. Like that's on the call list. Like
in a
Shotzi.
movie with Jen and Ken and Dan, there's Shotzi.
let me call my girl Shotzi over here.
I kind of love Shotzi, only because I've never heard it anywhere else, and I think it's just like such a crazy name in this universe to have. Like, but yeah, I don't know. There's something about it that I'm like, yeah, of course she's Shotzi.
Maybe I should put it on my baby name list.
Yeah, there's
there you
time.
go.
There's time.
My next question: what is the name of Jennifer's father?
Oh,
And don't say August. We do know his last name is
Mr.
August.
August.
Yeah. They do say it a few times, so I feel justified.
No,
in-
you're right.
Oh God. I buzzed in, but I'm not sure.
You want to take a guess?
Jerry?
You're absolutely right.
Oh,
Jerry
God.
August. Yeah.
Where did I get that
Nice.
Yeah, he's one of the people who has a pretty big IMDb list. He's played by Gary Daniels, so he's got almost names of 2 other characters in this movie in his names. But he's actually a real former. I don't know what kind of martial arts, but I think a boxer. So in that one scene
He
where
looked
he's
like
practicing
one.
boxing,
Right,
yeah.
and
Was he Australian? I was trying to place his
Seemed
accent.
like he
I looked him
was.
up when I was watching the movie, and
He's English.
He's English, but the
Okay.
accent really seemed Australian. So I don't
Okay,
know.
thank
Like,
you.
maybe he was trying to actually do American, and that's where he landed.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because when you mix together American and British, you get Australian, obviously.
The next question I have is, what is the name of the curmudgeon-y former choreographer in this movie?
Hal Sanders?
Yep, Hal Sanders.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
played by the director and co-writer of this movie, David Winters. Yeah. The next question I actually had on here, because those are all the names that I wanted to say, like, for questions. The next
Wait,
question...
not the captain?
No.
I was waiting for the
yeah.
captain. I love the
Yeah.
captain.
Questions about them might come up organically during the because I'm a professional.
I
But
know, but he was like a fairy god captain. I loved
yeah.
him.
Oh no, he's crumping the whole movie, whether
Yeah.
the
Oh, my
scene
goodness.
calls for it or not. He
Oh,
is,
captain, my captain, like help me guide my life.
yeah. The first question I have here, I'm not going to ask it as a question because it's spoiled by the whiteboard that we use to record our score. But where does this movie take place? Yeah, and
Wait, was that a question?
No, well, of course. Well, at this point, we've also already discussed it. Yeah.
I buzzed in anyway.
Yeah. No, this movie is a love letter to Panama City Beach, a town that I've actually been to,
Wait.
weirdly.
Was everyone dancing when you were there?
No.
Is
they
it all
have-
strip malls and beaches?
It's all strip malls
Okay.
and beaches, and there's the Ripley's Believe It or Not, like, little, thing there. There's, like, weirdly, when I first saw this movie, I'm like, hey, I've driven down those, like, 2 bare roads that are here in Panama City.
But people didn't greet you with dance. How
No,
rude.
the beaches are amazing. Like, I'm not trying to like slag on Panama City Beach. The Gulf beaches there are beautiful. It does feel sort of like a very touristy, trappy place. So a lot of the places that they go to, which I have questions about, so I don't want to talk about them too much. Like, it's all on location. But what I will say is, I'm not the only person who enjoyed their time in Panama City Beach. The Panama City heads come out on the IMDb page for this. There are so many. Pretty much all of the trivia and goofs on the IMDb page are people talking about specifics about Panama City in this movie. And again, none of these are sets, or none of these are sort of like fudged where it's like, oh, we shot this interior in LA, or like it pretty much is all, I think, shot. Maybe some of the interiors are, I don't know about that, but it's like all exteriors of places that you could find if you went to Panama City today, if a hurricane hasn't already destroyed them since 2013.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, So the movie begins with an opening montage contrasting the lives of our two leads before they meet.
Contrasting or doing the same choreography?
Yeah, that was quite the coincidence.
Almost like mirroring each other.
Yeah.
Purpose.
Yeah, and it was cut, so it was almost like they were dancing together, like with each other.
Because
Like,
dancing against walls is normal.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on.
I didn't even realize that the several times I had to watch that scene, like to do this like thing. That's interesting. Maybe I've just gotten like dance blindness after this movie, because I talk about it later. Like when they say somebody is dancing better than usual or worse than usual, or is like, it never ends with a mistake. Just somebody sort of frowns and then stops dancing, and it's like, what happened? And it's like,
No, there was definitely a couple of moments when Ken like just kind of half-heartedly marked something out and then stomped off like a toddler. Like you could definitely see his heart was not in the dance at that moment.
clear. I'm glad we brought you on, because I am not a dance expert. I'm an expert on esoteric Panama City beach facts now, but not on dance.
But yeah, I know we'll get into the dancing because dancing it's on. But I did kind of feel like and you mentioned this too, Jill, like the dancing in the most of the movie was really non-wow factor to it. Like the end was great. They did some really cool numbers, but it felt like they had a different choreographer for the end of the movie than they had for the rest of the movie, including the scenes where they're rehearsing for the end of the movie. None of it really seemed to sync. It was just very boring.
The stuff that we saw them rehearse did not actually make it into the show.
No.
Which,
Which
you know,
is
I mean, I
good.
guess because like they swapped partners up. So then I guess they had to just like redo their entire number within a few days.
Yeah, I wrote a note while watching it. Like, I don't know if this is good. Like, they're good dancers. It just doesn't seem like the choreography was that good. There was a lot of like, putting their hands through their hair movement and then like putting their hand in front of their chest and like moving it a couple times. And I'm like, I don't know if that's good.
Yeah. Well, and we also had the two couples that went before the Dan Shotzi and Ken Jen. It was like, where did they even come from?
I wish they were in the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
And I know we'll get to that. But I wish they were like, throw them in. Like, Jen didn't have any friends in the movie. She just had a love triangle the whole time. Give
Right.
her a friend. Give her a friend to talk to. Yeah.
Well, she had the captain.
She had the captain. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else do you need?
So we back to the montage that's going on, the first of many. We find out that Ken, and we kind of already talked about it, is a dishwasher, but he doesn't do a lot of dishwashing. He does a lot of dancing, but he also, in this scene, we see him sweep the floor, do laundry, take out the trash, seemingly move stuff around. He also does do some dishes, but I think he cleans 2 dishes, and then that's the end of the dish cleaning.
And they have that really weird camera angle too. Like the hidden secret boss or whatever that show was, where it's like the
Undercover
hidden
Boss, yeah.
undercover boss with like the hidden camera that was right above the sink. It was just there's a lot to be said about the way this movie was shot, but that one particular camera was like, what were we trying to accomplish here? You see it a couple of times.
We simply don't have the time.
Yeah, and this is the first time we see David Winters in this montage. Ken like runs past him. Jennifer says goodbye to her friends at school at the end of the montage and drives away in a fancy like older.
It's a Rolls
car.
Royce.
Yeah, it's like a Rolls Royce. Yeah, and this is something, again, in the light of seeing the whole movie, I'm like, oh, I guess she's a college student because she's an adult woman, but I guess she's supposed to.
This is high school.
Yeah.
It would have made more sense because she did say "see you next semester," and that felt more college-like. But
the school that we see her at and the activities that she's engaging in, and like the sense to which she has no real control over going to see her father, that this is a thing that is happening, not a thing that she is invited to do.
Yeah.
She's a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's that scene in the montage where she's Britney Spearsing in the hall.
Yeah.
And like I cracked up because at one point somebody like turns to look like, why are you dancing?
I think they shot it like at a real high school, like while classes were actually happening. And it's just like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
wait, am I in a flash mob? That other person's dancing
Yeah.
now too.
Oh, flash mobs. That was very 2013,
It
actually.
was very 2013.
Yeah. So she takes her parents' Rolls Royce to her parents' like fancy house. Well, we find out it's just her mother's
Right.
house. Her and her mother are having dinner, and she expresses that she doesn't want to spend the summer with her father. And
Yeah, I do want to comment on her extracurricular activities because
Yes.
she had a full schedule. She did cheerleading, dance, gymnastics. Like there was a lot going on there.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that later on she says that she's been dancing for 5 years.
Yeah.
The ballet that she was like the ballet she was doing at the beginning, those were just warm-ups, but nobody dances the way that she is ultimately dancing at the end after dancing for 5 years, let alone cheerleading, like that is I wasn't sure if that was a like, oh haha, me too, like I'm just gonna make myself smaller because this boy is cute and I don't want to be like more, I don't want to say that I make more money than you sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
Even though she does that many other times,
right,
different ways.
Yeah,
throughout
well,
the movie.
and I mean, he says he's been dancing for 5 years, and like there are things that he's doing there that you cannot do in 5 years.
And why not? These are dancers in this movie. Why not just say they've been dancing for as long as they've actually been dancing
Yeah.
for? Like make it more like themselves.
Yeah,
Like,
if
they
it-
obviously are very good.
If it's their life, I mean, like I didn't do ballet because I had bad ankles, but every person that I knew when I was the age that Jennifer is supposed to be, not the age that the performer actually is. Every dancer that I knew when I was in high school who was doing ballet had started when they were like 4 years old.
Yeah.
And it like the ones who thought it was their life, like this is what they do. They're not doing any other extracurriculars. They're going to school and then they are going to ballet. That was it.
I think you have to start young for ballet.
You
too.
have to.
Yeah.
I thought the same thing. My only guess as to why they would say something like 5 years when it's clearly you need more time than that might be because maybe their audience is young people and they don't want somebody of high school age who might be interested in dancing in this movie to be like, oh, well, I can't do it. Like, that's
So
my
it's
only guess.
aspirational.
Aspirational.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see that, but like in that case, there's no reason for it to be ballet.
Yeah.
Like there are certain dance forms that you can get really good at in 5 years. And she, the performer, has a ballroom dance background. She did Dancing with the Stars. So like Latin ballroom, those are types of dance where if you really commit yourself to it, you can get very good in 5 years.
you can pick it up as an older person
Right.
too, because ballet is one that, like it, as you said, if you have bad ankles, you can't do ballet.
Or like that kind of technical work, I think you have to do for a much longer
Right.
time.
I just met a woman who's 72 years old who started ballroom dancing a couple of years ago, and now her retirement plan is to teach ballroom dancing.
That's good.
So
I love that.
yeah, I think it's awesome. She was a very, very cool lady. But that's the sort of thing that you can pick up later in life. And there's also, like there's not like the expectation that you have a ballerina body for some of these other forms of dance. So like, just why ballet? It doesn't
Yeah.
come up again at all.
Just one scene.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a easy scene to do in a montage to establish that she practices dance.
But she could have done anything in a dance studio.
Even me, I'm a dummy. I'm like, that's dance. Like, back to the dinner her and her mom are having. As you said before, she has to go see her dad. She doesn't really seem to have a choice. I wrote down one of the lines from this scene where the mother says, I understand this particular hotel is quite unique. Jennifer responds, what's that supposed to mean? And then, which is
Fair question.
I had to
Yeah.
write it down like, no, Mark, this is what she said, not what your your
Yeah.
note next to this line is. And then her mom responds, you'll find out tomorrow.
And this scene is important because we establish the difference between Ken and Jen, where Jen has money and parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really
Making her better than Ken.
Exactly.
I was trying to figure out like is the Rolls Royce and the butler per person in their house and the formal dining room, like they dress for dinner sort of feeling there. Is that money that mom got in the divorce, or does mom do something else that like she's got that kind of money? Because it was like an absurd amount of money for a girl who I think is going to a public high school.
Yeah, it's like Daddy Warbucks.
Yeah.
Like levels of money.
The like the Rolls Royce and the dressing up for dinner give the impression of like old money
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Like,
Maybe both her parents are just like,
Yeah.
maybe the dad's new money.
the
maybe that's
dad
why.
clearly knew money. He got
Yeah.
his money like as a prize fighter.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but they're both equally rich and she is also spoiled. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's one of the few facts on Wikipedia about this movie that this is Beverly Hills, California in this scene. Even though there's nothing
There's
about
nothing
it
to
in the
indicate that at all.
Again, the 3-sentence plot synopsis on there takes time to
say
mention
it's
that it's
Beverly Hills,
the girl from Beverly Hills, California.
It is funny with romantic comedies, though. I do feel like there's a trope of like the rich girl and the poor boy, and I always wonder what it'd be like the other way around. Like if it was a rich man, it's like, oh, great, now you have to do work on yourself in this movie. They just they never do that though, so forget I said it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So after that scene where her mother is like, "Yeah, you'll go to the hotel and don't worry about it," we get a montage of her flying. Or like a plane, so you know that there was flight that took place. So she flies into Northwest Florida Beach International Airport, the Panama City Beach Airport, because everything in this movie is Panama City Beach specific. She walks out and goes right to the first car she sees, which is a confusing thing for me. Like that she would just go. It's not like there's a sign that says
I'm the rich girl. The limo must be for me.
Yeah, but I guess it's an international airport. I bet there's a second. Like I drove into Panama City, so I didn't use the airport there. But I assume there's probably more than one car in the parking lot when you like go out there.
Yeah, it's not even her father picking her up. She doesn't know the person picking her up.
She says, yeah. She also says that she hardly knows her father. So like, would she have recognized her dad if he'd been there?
Yeah.
Well, are you about to ask a question about this?
Sort of. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Bob's,
Then I'll hold
Bob's
off
hand
on
is
my
hovering
I was
over the
like,
phone.
yeah.
Yeah, so, but as we all established, this is actually not her car. Does anybody remember what the first indication that it's not her car is? That, like, something happened. She's about to walk into the car, and then something happens.
Well, she's interrupted by a mime.
Yes, that's exactly, yeah. A mime jumps into frame and points at the hotel transportation.
And takes her suitcase.
And takes her suitcase, yeah.
I'd be alarmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's not getting into a fancy limo. My next question, what does she get into instead? Oh.
A red golf cart.
Yep, a red golf cart. So some real beautiful maniacs have been adding all types of Panama City Beach specific trivia to the IMDb page for this movie.
God bless them.
I have sprinkled them throughout this game. I will be reading the trivia, and afterwards I'll be asking you all if you think at time of recording if the ratio of people who found that helpful versus not found that helpful is greater than 50% or not. The first IMDb trivia we have is from the goofs section of this film.
Uh-oh.
Womp womp.
Yeah. The Panama City Beach Airport is 18 miles outside of town. Golf carts cannot legally travel on state highways.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, Jenny would not have been able to get from the airport to her father's hotel in a golf cart under any circumstances, much less in the space of a song chorus.
No shortcut.
Yeah, so
It wasn't a song chorus. There was a whole song
Yeah,
about
so
Panama
there's
City
a
there.
whole
About
song.
Panama City.
So I am a IMDb trivia purist, and
Okay.
so I read them as they are said, as they are spelled, and I leave all of it intact. So
Fair. I
so-
apologize.
Don't
No
want
worries,
any
yeah.
angry people.
Yeah.
coming at you.
So do you think it's 0 to 50% of people found that, or 51 or higher?
I'm going to say I thought that was helpful. And because everyone on IMDb seems to be from Panama City, I'm going to say over 50.
Over 50% found that helpful.
I also think over.
Okay.
I'll take the other road.
You'll take the
and
under?
say
The road
under.
less traveled.
Yes.
All right. So at time of recording, 2 out of 2 people found that
Oh, wow.
helpful.
100%.
Yeah. So you guys both get points for that.
Okay.
Yeah. And we have not seen the last of our friends.
Oh,
of the
I'm sure.
IMDb trivia.
I have
yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah. So now we have some Panama City propaganda. I don't have any particular questions for this first montage because we basically visit all these locations
I
again.
Shazammed this song to see if it was a real song or if it was just for the movie, and I kept getting error messages. So clearly, it was written for the movie.
Oh yeah,
It was pretty catchy. I think.
There's only I tried to get information about any of the music on here. Only one
One
of the
song.
song is available, and the 2 artists that it's attributed to's internet presence is not very helpful. Like I can find both the artists, but their internet presence is kind of confusing and
Yeah.
strange.
I assumed in this montage of Panama City, I was like, well, I assume there must be like some sort of tax break that happened for this movie, or maybe like a local, Bureau of Business or something helped to sponsor it or something. It definitely feels like this movie was sponsored by Panama City, Florida.
This montage also reminded me of like the opening credits to The Office that like John Krasinski famously filmed his first day going to Scranton, or the opening credits to Always Sunny in Philadelphia,
Right.
or where you see like all the shots of Philly. So I'm like, this is just them going through Panama City, singing about Panama City.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're in Panama City.
But also, now knowing that the airport is 18 miles from the main part of Panama City.
Citation needed.
And but we are okay. We're recording this in Philadelphia. We all live in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that's a fact that we have brought up every
So
episode.
well, I'm happy. I'm happy to continue the trend. I think that maybe the best comparison to that would be Rocky. It's Rocky 2, right, where he does the run. And
he does it in the first one,
Is it
too.
the first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, somebody had a friend of mine, Dan McQuaid, had at one point like mapped out if Rocky ran the route that you see in the movie, and it comes out to it's like an ultra marathon. And then my friend Rebecca Barber actually does this like unofficial Rocky run every year. That
I did that once.
She got a C and D from MGM for like promoting it. She's like, I make no money. I make no money on this. And then
It was a hard run.
yeah. So because there's
I mostly
like,
did it so I could just be on the top of the steps with my medal and take those
oh,
photos.
then that was the official Rocky run. If there was a medal involved, this is a whole other thing. But all of which is to say, knowing that you couldn't possibly have done this 18-mile trip in a golf cart, and it's probably like showing you the best of Panama City. I feel like that's more like, yes, we're getting the highlights of this. We're not actually getting the full trip. And so it's not an accurate representation, but it's about the spirit of the journey.
Maybe, yeah. Again, it was hard for me to. I tried to do a little bit of mapping out, but again, hurricanes are scary, and a lot of these places don't exist anymore in the way that they are. So it was hard for me to get exact locations for all these. After the Panama City montage, which, like I said, we will be going over some of the stuff about it specifically.
Hell yeah.
We make it to the hotel. For my next question, what is the full name of the hotel?
It didn't make a lot of sense. I think it was the Hit Parade Hotel.
Yep, the Hit Parade Hotel.
Okay.
Yeah, we see it a few times, including the business center. We get to go to the Hit Parade Business Center for a hot second.
How fancy.
Yeah, I don't think that's a real place, the Hit Parade Hotel.
What?
Yeah.
My dreams are shattered. I wanted to go there and see the dancing and the captain.
From what I understand, almost every hotel in Panama City has similar performers outside of it 24/7,
Yeah.
but it's just that particular hotel doesn't exist.
Like it's like a 24-hour improv show. There's 24-hour dancing in the lobby at all times.
yeah, people with stilts and stuff like that.
As somebody with ADHD, the idea of just walking into that lobby and having 17 different performances happening all at once, I would just shut down. I would not know where to look, and I would just shut down. I couldn't get to the reception desk.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, no, and we're saying things like performers. Not everybody is really performing. It's like if you consider performance just wearing a costume and like standing in a lobby as a performance, then
Quoting 80-year-old movies.
Yeah. I feel like it was like a talent show sign up. Like people came by, they're like, I can be in your movie. I can quote Shakespeare. It's like, well, is that a talent? All right, I guess you can go in.
It's like, okay, you're wearing a costume. Costume?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that hotel was not just a collective fever dream of people who didn't make it and are like, well, I'm doing this other job, but my passion is Shakespeare. Like, this is what they just saw all the time and that they were doing.
Yeah, weirdly, it's I can think of like 7 other musicals that we'll probably do on this podcast, like The Apple, or maybe like The Legend of the Stardust Brothers, or a bunch of other musicals where a room full of people dressed up like that would make perfect sense. And this is like the one movie that I can think of where it doesn't make sense to have a room full of people like in costume or something like that.
It was bizarre.
Yeah. I think that's one of the pull quotes from the poster, right? But my next question, when she gets out of the golf cart, which we all know isn't street legal, okay. She is greeted by the captain. Does anybody remember what the captain calls her? And he calls her at this time and then a few other times in the movie, so I feel comfortable asking this.
Doesn't he milady her?
Yep, that's basically it, the lady of the house.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, he calls her the lady of the house, and he does it a few times. She walks inside, and we've kind of already talked about a bunch of the people, the specifics, so I'm not going to ask about that. But what I will ask is, what is the room number that we hear first from the receptionist? Or I said receptionist, but the concierge.
To be or not to be?
Yeah. That.
Ba-dum-bum.
Yep, that is the answer to the question I just said.
It's also not what. It's also not her room number.
No.
which
No.
I thought which I was confused.
It's
at
just
first.
it's another guest.
Yeah.
And then he does the what's in a name bit
Yes,
with the rose
right.
for her.
Yeah.
I thought it was so bizarre when, she goes up. We might mention this earlier. She goes, there's a couple there and they're dressed up. And the guy says, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. And she's like, oh, Gone with the Wind, my favorite movie. And I thought to myself, what are those two people doing the whole time? Are they just reenacting
Community theater
the
that
whole
the
no
movie
one
movie?
asked
Movie?
for?
they're just doing that line.
They're like, what movie?
Also, just the okay. Neither of them. They did not look like Rhett Butler and Scarlett O'Hara.
No.
The guy looked like Mel Brooks.
Yeah. He's dressed like Paul F. Tompkins might dress in
There was
the
a
tail.
significant age difference.
There was, he was definitely 30 years older than her. And also, what 17-year-old girl in 2013 would ever say that Gone with the Wind was her favorite movie? I loved that movie a lot when I was a kid because influences from my grandparents. But by the time I was a teenager,
Yeah, me
I would
too.
never have said Gone with the Wind is my favorite movie.
Yeah. Well, again, this might be because of the quality of the acting or the direction, but I didn't believe that was her favorite movie from the line read. Oh, that's my favorite
I
movie.
think she says,
From the
Gone
VO.
with the Wind, that's
Yeah.
my favorite movie.
Yeah.
She lets them know first that she knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
She's picking up what they're putting down.
It
Yeah,
also felt like an afterthought, mostly because it was voiced over, but it did feel like they kind of just wanted
Yeah.
to put that in
Yeah.
after the fact.
This whole movie is acted like the one scene from The Room where he goes to get the plant store.
It really is.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
ADR.
hi, you're my favorite customer.
Yeah. It's like on 1.25 speed and everything. It's just it's very strange.
If it were made today, I would have thought that an AI wrote the whole script.
Yeah.
It really does feel like that.
Yeah, I was wondering
Definitely the music.
But that also kind of brings me to the Shakespeare guy, who I kind of think could have done more, to be honest. Like have him in some sort of costume or hat, have him commit or just not do it at all. He was just very in between, to be or not to be. To be? Oh, to be. And it's just there's so many crazy costumes. There's stilts. There's someone dressed from Gone with the Wind. Give him a fancy hat. I don't know. Right. Have him project more or to use his hands and pretend he's actually on stage doing Shakespeare. But he was just kind of half-hearted with that.
Well, and then there's this Penn and Teller sort of relationship with the other guy at the front desk, where the other guy doesn't say anything, but he's the one who magics the rose from white to red when Jen is checking into the hotel. Mm-hmm. I did not. Bob and I know each other because we've done Shakespeare together. We can probably quote a lot of Shakespeare between us. I can't imagine just spending my day quoting Shakespeare to my customers
and your coworker too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would run out of relevant things eventually.
Yeah, if that guy wound up dead on the beach in Panama City, I feel like there would be many suspects amongst the employees in the lobby at the hotel.
Yeah, the one thing, because you guys have kind of covered a lot of stuff I had written down, but the one other thing I wanted to mention about the lobby, especially in this scene, is did anybody notice there seem to be 12 middle school girls who aren't dressed up, who seem to be just watching the person on the stilts too. It's like there's a field trip coming through here or something like that. There were a bunch of young kids who were not performing or anything. So it's imagine you're a teenager or a preteen and you come to the lobby of a hotel to gawk at the weirdos who stand there and
yeah, I thought this too. I feel like a lot of times during the movie there's random groups of young people who maybe are either actually high school age or playing younger. They're maybe slightly older, but which doesn't make sense in terms of realism, but it does make sense in terms of the movie because this is your
post-high school musical movie.
It's it's like a high school musical movie. It's you want to imagine that you're in a place where there are lots of people your age hanging out around and doing various things, like going to get ice cream and going to different things. So, yeah.
Yeah, so Jennifer finally gets up to the front desk. Does anybody remember what the Shakespeare quote that the concierge recites to her here? And it doesn't have to be exact, but just the gist.
That's that line that I was talking about from Romeo and Juliet, that which we call a rose by any other name would still smell as sweet.
Yeah, I think he actually misquotes
Line
the
in
thing, but it's
Yeah.
I wrote down the rose line from Romeo and
Yeah.
Juliet as definitely as the one,
And not the full quote that Jill just did.
No,
Right.
as the
Yeah, I don't think it was
non-thespian.
Yeah, I don't think that it was correct either. But also, like, just that part of the line is like it takes away from the context of the.
Yes,
whole- yeah.
absolutely, it does. Yeah, and yeah, I think I actually have a note about that somewhere later or something like that because I think somebody runs down all the misquotes that the guy says at IMDb. So yeah, I mentioned the Penn and Teller thing about the one guy does sleight of hand magic and doesn't say anything. She runs into Danny, the head bellboy. He introduces himself as Danny, but then immediately says, "You can call me Dan," which begs the question why he didn't just introduce himself as Dan.
And no one calls him Dan in the entire
and then no one does.
movie.
Yeah. But Jennifer isn't listening to him because in the other room there's jarringly loud boombox music playing and Ken is dancing.
I feel like this was supposed to be their West Side Story moment, like
Yes.
seeing
Yeah.
each other across
Yes.
a crowded dance floor sort of situation, which
Crowded,
makes
yes.
sense because Ken Winters was in West Side Story, but like also
David Winters.
or it's David Winters.
Okay, I got Ken on the brain too.
Who doesn't have Ken on the brain? But yeah, it was so like it in West Side Story. They see each other across and like the crowd parts and there's everything slows down and there's
Spotlights and-
spotlight and everything. This is just like, no, I'm going to stare at this guy who is creepily also staring back at me while dancing.
Yeah, she's like leaning
Yeah.
over to see, and there's so many spectators in this lobby.
Yes.
It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
a fire hazard.
it's-
Like it's not zoned for this many people.
It's the first of like maybe 2 or 3 other times in this movie where Ken starts dancing and a crowd forms around him.
Yes.
So like no one asks for it, but they all just like, oh my God, look at that. And then they just disperse.
I wasn't clear on whether amongst Ken's many responsibilities at the hotel, he was also a paid entertainer or whether Ken just
Right.
like walked into the lobby and started dancing.
The spirit moved him. Yeah.
yeah.
I also had to laugh out loud at this part and many other parts because there are a lot of moments where like the edit cuts are so fast that it's silly. And this is one of those moments. Danny comes up and is like, "Hi." So we're about to cut to Ken dancing, so she's looking over his shoulder, but the cut is so fast that it's like, "Hi, I'm Danny. How are you?" And it goes like immediately to Ken.
And the
Yeah.
sound design
Yeah.
deserves a Razzie. I don't like Razzies necessarily, but I think the sound editing deserves
Yeah.
a Razzie.
When I started watching this, like my surround sound was on and I had to turn it off because I kept getting so distracted by
Right.
things like that.
Yeah. And it like I really meant to just ask what everybody else's experience was that because sometimes when you're watching on streaming the audio gets out of sync.
Yeah. Mhm.
But I thought that was happening the entire movie
Yeah.
because the voices are just so off
bad.
sync all the time.
Well, and
Yeah.
I like when I was looking at the Wikipedia page, apparently like one of the things that it got consistently panned for was the dubbing.
Oh yeah.
But it's not just that, like the quality of the picture, which, sometimes when you put something on streaming, it takes a while and it's a little staticky and it looks like it was recorded on a VCR at first.
Right.
And then it clears up. This whole thing looks like it was shot on an iPhone 4.
Yeah, it does.
might
it's
have
probably
been.
it's probably just digital. It probably isn't to film, or if it is, it's like a maybe video quality film
but
or something like that.
and it's
yeah.
overexposed,
Yeah.
and they did not have anybody go through and master it after.
Yeah. It's lit like a hotel.
Yeah, even outside, it's
Yeah.
like yeah.
So yeah, Danny takes her up to her father's room and then sort of seems to refuse to leave. Again, a beautiful IMDb person has some trivia for us here. Though Jenny supposedly goes into her father's hotel room, it is a house in the Finsterein subdivision about 10 minutes away. So I looked it up. That's a housing subdivision of Panama City Beach. That's like a few, like she said, about 10-minute drive away from the main drag of Panama City. So this person knows that, like, which house the like hotel room is
That's
in.
pretty
That's
crazy.
intense.
I mean,
Yeah.
I figured it was just like a penthouse because it was so big, but there's also a staircase in it. So
It's-
I
yeah,
was
it's-
confused by that.
It's definitely supposed to be the penthouse at the top of the hotel, but it obviously there's no hotel. So
What?
we see the lobby of the hotel, and we see the penthouse, and then
And we see no other hotel rooms except for Hal's hotel room for like 5 seconds when Danny mysteriously goes to change the sheets.
And even that looked like a motel more than anything else.
Yes.
Like it looked like
Yeah.
a totally different hotel.
But
Yeah.
before we get off of that,
Yeah.
we got to go around, and you guys got to put your guesses in. Was it greater than 50% or 50%?
Oh,
of
that it
people?
was 10 minutes away.
The IMDb trivia fact. We got to give this person their due. They went on IMDb and they typed up this weird fact that's specific to a housing development near where the movie was filmed. So
I don't like this one as much, so I'm going to say under 50.
under 50%.
I'm also going to say under 50. It doesn't really add to anything really in terms of the storytelling.
That's sometimes a red herring, but you under 50. What about you?
Over 50.
Over 50.
Gotta be different.
Yeah.
0 out of 1 people found this unhelpful. Yeah. And it wasn't me, I promise. I'm always just an observer on
Yeah.
IMDb.
Hilting the stats ahead of time.
No. My next question, Jen and her father reunite. How long has it been since Jennifer's father has seen her? And it doesn't have to be exact. She quotes an exact amount, but
Yes. So it's 5 years, and he thinks it's 3 years.
yeah, that's exactly right. He says it's been 3 years. She says it's been 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days.
Which implies that she counts every day she doesn't see him.
Yeah.
I don't-
Or she just remembers the last time she saw him and
that's
counted
fair.
backwards.
But also she wasn't that excited to see him. So like why would she be keeping track that closely?
Well, in this
Felt
scene,
like a
she
guilt
was
trip.
excited to
Yes.
see him, not in the previous scene.
She was so excited to see him that she called him by the very affectionate name of Father.
Yeah,
Yeah.
father. It's very
Hello,
awkward.
Father.
Yeah.
He's like, hi, Jen. And she's like, father.
Yeah.
But yeah, she did it as a guilt trip then, just to be like, it's been this many days since you've reached out, and I count it for this purpose.
It's like the sign at Wawa. It's been this many days since we last had a safety incident.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the next question I have is what excuse does he give as to why he hasn't seen her?
I love all the exposition in this scene. He was so focused on his fighting.
Yeah, he said he got so caught up in the fight game.
The fight game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fight
Literally,
game.
these sentences are like, I think the thing that she said to prompt that was like, well, you really haven't been in my life that much. And he's like, well, I've just been so hung up with the fight game.
It's like, I've just been fighting. It's on.
Yeah.
That's the spit-off series.
It seems like he's still fighting, but also now he's gone into this additional venture of hotel management.
They go hand in hand.
I mean, I know that I'm sure that there are fighters who also have a stake in a hotel, but like
He runs the hotel, presumably.
and it would be like it's not a boxing themed hotel.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. It's like, why is there so much dance there if that's like not something he introduced to the space?
Yeah,
Right.
And he doesn't seem to be for or against it. He almost seems to not notice that there's dancing
Yeah.
going on. The only time he seems to like acknowledge the dancing is the dancing his daughter does.
Yeah, right at the very end.
Yeah, even though his lobby is lousy with weirdos who are dancing or dancing adjacent things.
Yes.
It also didn't make sense why he didn't, if she's been dancing for 5 years and he hasn't seen her in 5 years, why hasn't he invited her down to his dance-centric hotel sooner than now? She would have loved it.
He also talks later on about like what a good dancer she is, that he knows what a good dancer she is. But it's like if you haven't seen her in 5 years and she's only been dancing for 5 years,
Yeah.
how?
Father's intuition.
God.
So yeah, they make small talk like two people who haven't seen each other in 5 years. He asks, "How was your kitty?" and "How was your flight?" And your mom says you've been studying dance, which again, he clearly he hasn't seen her dance. Hearing your child is studying dance in a place like this is like hearing she's a Pokemon trainer in the Pokemon world. This is a place where everything revolves around dance. People, as we drove through Panama City, we didn't really talk about it, but they're dancing
Yes.
like next
Yeah.
to all of the attractions.
I was waiting if that was going to be a question, then I forgot. But there was like, they drove by a mini golf course and they used their mini golf clubs to like,
As, like,
to
canes,
do
yeah.
cane
Yeah.
and to dance. Everyone dances here.
Yeah. But their bonding is cut short as her father is called away to work, which I believe is how every scene that he is in ends. Left alone, she decides to take in some PCB nightlife. She walks around, I think, only 2 carnival attractions and then goes to Club La Vela.
Yeah, she walks around them. She doesn't necessarily go
No,
on
she doesn't
them.
interact with them or
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
And she's wearing like shoes that I don't know that I would want to do that much walking in.
Same.
Yeah.
As somebody who's walked around that part of it's like there's not a ton of sidewalks. Like the sidewalks come and go. Like it's a good place to get an Uber. Like in that area of PCB, if I'm getting that right. Yeah, she's not dressed to be wandering around in the evening in
Isn't it
Panama City.
At least like 3-4 inch wedges she has.
Yeah.
Like, I would be so uncomfortable after like 10 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. So the Club La Vela is a real place, or I should say was a real place. It was shut down in 2018 after Hurricane Michael caused major damage to the club. But yeah, it was at the time the largest all ages club in the United States, and has a very long Wikipedia page, which I'm not going to go into because that would be even more egregious for the length of this podcast.
Man, our internet is controlled by these Panama Cityans. Like, they really leave their mark.
Yeah, so she enters the club and she sees Ken dancing, but not seemingly to the beat of the song. And I just assume that every sentence where I say dancing ends with that too. Like, because the songs are so aggressively added afterwards that it's like they're not even dancing to a click track of the same song.
So it's not uncommon in like dancing movies for them to have something different that you're dancing to, and like even in music videos sometimes it's something different that you're dancing to, but they try to at least get it so it's the same
beat,
the same tempo, something, or they can slow or speed the film to work out with the music that they're ultimately planning on doing. Because sometimes it's like we don't have the rights to a song for this scene yet, so we're just going to like,
or it hasn't been written, or it's like going to be
yeah.
It's like, all sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it's like, so we're just going to put Beyonce on. You dance to Beyonce, and we'll fix it in post. But you fix it in post.
Yeah, that's another pull of quote from this movie too.
You fix it in post.
So they introduce themselves. For actors who are definitely not teenagers, Ken and Jen sure are awkward, around each other like teenagers. That they like disappear into the roles when it's the two of them talking to each other. It's
You mean acting?
yeah. She asks how long he has been dancing.
5 years.
And he says 5 years. Yeah. They start dancing. Danny looks on in an extremely menacing way.
Oh my God. I thought that he was going to like actually do something about it, but no, he's just going to stare.
Yeah.
Yeah, not creepy at all.
No.
Yeah. People cut in randomly while they're dancing. And then they stop. They cut in, but then within 5 seconds, they're like, oh, we're back together.
Yeah, I thought that would have been menacing too. Like everything's trying to keep them apart and they can't get back to each other. But then they do. It happens, then it's done with.
Yeah. So like if you go to a salsa club, it's not unusual for there to be like a turn and you're temporarily with another partner and then you turn back and you're with the first partner. That's fine. That part didn't throw me off that much. To do the dancing that they did together, having never met, with her ballet background and his I don't know what kind of dancing we want to call it background, that was what was unrealistic for me. Not the partner swapping, the actual dancing.
What are you talking about? This movie is just like Save the Last Dance. Come on.
They leave the club after they do their one or two songs inside. Does anybody remember where they go next? It's at that same night.
Is this the part when they go to like those little shops and they go to the giant shark's mouth?
No.
And it was later.
Yeah, it's later.
Did they go back to the hotel? Does he give her a ride on his scooter? Back
That
to the hotel?
is after this, but they do something in between. that.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have a guess?
This isn't when they went to buy the necklace either. I'm
That's the same thing that she's talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah. No, they go to like a carnival.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and then I think this is the scene where she asks why he dances. Does anybody remember what he says there?
It's my life.
Yeah, he says, it's my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, his only chance to be something. Again, he's an orphan, so in this movie, he's really like he has a job and like, but in order to rise above his rank of orphan. He needs to.
This was
do
the
something.
part when I was watching this movie alone in my house with no one else there, where I just started singing, "I'm just Ken."
Yeah.
Anywhere, like it was just so angsty. I loved it.
So like teenagers who come from a disadvantaged background. And they're talking about like my only chance to get out of here. Usually they're talking about the military or they're talking about sports. I can't think of anybody who's ever been like, dancing. That's going to be my ticket out of this shithole.
The statewide competition. That's what's going to do it.
Because it wasn't like you get a scholarship to the University of Florida.
It wasn't like you get any money.
But no, you get $100,000.
Oh, wow, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which was
that
a
was-
huge prize.
It was
for
on the
something like this.
poster.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
I'm surprised that wasn't one of your questions.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I am too. Well,
the prize pot was $100,000, which is not insignificant. Presumably, you need to split it with your partner. So, like, when you're 17 years old, $50,000 is a lot of money.
When
And
you're 32, $50,000 is a lot of money.
but just knowing that this was his ticket out of town was dancing. It was like, okay, you won a statewide competition. Now what?
So I wasn't sure if he was trying to get out of town, though. Like, he had no
Yeah.
aspirations. He did nothing past being a dishwasher. It felt to me more like, I need to win this competition to prove to myself that I'm worth something, or that, like, my whole identity is dance. So if I don't win this, then who am I?
Right.
He's just Ken.
It wasn't even like he needed to win the competition to prove something to her dad.
Yeah. No,
well,
'cause he wanted to-
we do get that later, and then that's dropped. But yes,
Well, I mean, we get her dad's disapproval later, and it's really not clear whether it's a class thing or a race thing or
feels like a class thing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
only because he didn't see him at all. He's like, a dishwasher.
but he knew who he was. He was like, "Is that dishwasher boy?"
yeah.
no, it's much more complicated than all. Yes, somehow you're right, but it's even more so.
This movie has a plot and a backstory the way that a porno film has a plot and a backstory. It's like it's just there so that you can get to the exciting stuff. And it's like this movie, it's just there so we can get to the dancing and so we can get it's on. Because, realistically, I was thinking this, like, he's clearly a dancer who knows forms. He's like he's able to do the spins. He knows the ballet. Like, I don't know anything about anything, but he seems like he knows what he's doing. I wouldn't imagine that you could get to that point without having taken a lot of lessons.
No,
and
absolutely.
if you've taken a lot of lessons, then you have a teacher, you have like probably some people who took lessons with you. Like, you've got some community around there. He doesn't seem to have that,
Right.
which is like very unrealistic.
And how could he afford those classes in the first place?
yeah.
But when he took the classes, he also washed the studio's dishes when he was like 10 years old to afford to be there.
This isn't, because it's not like you mentioned Save the Last Dance. And Save the Last Dance, like, part of that central conflict is like the ballet versus the street dance, like the taught dance versus the like dance that you pick up that you learn.
And the ungodly marriage of them at the end.
Well, yeah. Yeah, nobody really needed that. But, here it's like the dance, it's not like he's a break dancer and she's a ballerina.
Yeah.
Like, the dancing that they're doing is generally pretty compatible. And where does that come from either of their backgrounds?
Yeah, because we really don't see her do ballet besides that one scene in the
Right.
beginning. Like, I never really thought of her as a ballerina because she was also doing all those other modern, I don't
Right.
know what to call it. It wasn't really dance.
But then we see him doing those a la Seconde turns, which are the turns where you have, it's a pirouette but you have one leg extended out to the side the entire time. And those are really, really, really hard. And that's something, it's not just a ballet thing, but generally in order to do it, you've got at least some ballet training. So she does like very basic ballet at the beginning. She's warming up. She's doing like moving in and out of different positions. And he is doing this like extremely complex type of turn that you don't have to learn from a ballet class, but you generally would learn from being in the ballet world. And the choreography is really not bad. It is just that the choreography does not make sense for the plot.
okay. I did like seeing him do those. I thought they were pirouettes when he was spinning at first, but I liked that because he was really good at that, and I just called them his angry spins.
Yeah. So yeah, like an a la Seconde turn is like a pirouette, but you keep the leg extended out to the side. A pirouette, you have your knee bent and turned out to the side with the foot kind of nestled into the other leg.
Okay.
And then there's
Picture.
I think fouette turns, I think, are the other ones where you're alternating between the two. You bring the leg out and bring it in, bring the leg out and bring it in. And normally you see female dancers doing the fouette turns and male dancers doing the a la seconde turns, but anybody can do either of them as long as you've got the training.
Well, I guess I'll have to not ask those questions. About that. Yeah.
I figured I would be safe giving a little bit of ballet vocabulary that it wasn't going to screw up your plans.
Yeah, I don't think I have any of those words on this script. The words I do have are moped. He next drives her back to the hotel on his moped. He seems to be pushing her away at this point, but she will not take no for an answer. She really wants him. And the captain comes up to her, and they have a back and forth about chariots and pumpkins. I think I prefer the pumpkin. Wiser words were never spoken. He responds.
Too many metaphors.
Yeah. Everything that happens with the captain is like the most important thing that he's ever witnessed, or the most like serious thing he's ever witnessed.
And that's why I love him.
Like that character kind of bothered me because there's a trope in film and literature of the magical Negro.
Yeah. I thought that
and
too.
And the captain was so much that every time it was like, why couldn't you make Ken black and like not have assigned these attributes to like the fairy godmother, like sees all, omniscient, like why did it have to be the only black performer in the show? in the movie?
And it's not, but it's not like they gave him a like famously African American style of dance for him to do every time, like associated with the African American
popping
music.
and locking originated in Russia in the 1930s.
No, and you're absolutely right. I wouldn't call him an actor, but I know he's a dancer. He just had such a great energy about him that it just made me happy whenever he was in a scene. I'm like, oh, the captain's here. He's great.
You're absolutely right about the way he's written in, but you're also absolutely right that he was a delight in the whole movie. I enjoyed him. Yeah, he has. I mean, with somebody like him, who it's like the whole time you just have to be happy and you have to just
right.
He's the only one whose energy matches the weirdness of this
movie.
Yes.
Well, and then also apparently he's a very talented MC and well known throughout all of Panama City for the dance performance
and the statewide competition.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like I did wish that the other dancers brought that energy he did, because most of the time they were kind of boring.
Mm-hmm. It didn't feel like he was reading his lines off of a prompter every time he was on screen.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. So the next day, Ken returns to do the dishes, and the captain gives him a warning. Does anybody remember what the warning that he gives Ken? So the next day he's driving back on his moped and he's walking into the... it doesn't have anything to do with anything else in the movie, but it's another metaphor that the captain says.
Keep this place ship shape.
That's more of an admiral thing, Bob, not the captain.
Don't fly too close to the sun, Icarus.
That's like weirdly closer.
It was very
yeah.
It really was kind of a like watch your back, know your place sort of thing, but I don't remember the exact metaphor that he used.
So he's not saying he's saying watch your back, but not because he's saying know your place. He says, careful, the vultures are out today. And there's one vulture in short shorts and like a button-down shirt wandering around.
And they panned over to Danny, and I laughed out loud at his shorts. It's not unusual that you would be wearing shorts in Panama City, but for some reason he just looks so silly.
Well, he's the tall.
Shorts.
I think he might be the tallest
He's
actor,
really tall.
other than the captain, who is dressed like like he's got like a.
It's the short shorts and like really blousy shirt.
Yes,
and he's supposed to be like the head bellboy, and usually there's a uniform that bellboys wear, but it's clearly not. Like, did he also get to work late? Did he get to work like 1 minute earlier than Ken? So now he's going to make Ken feel shitty about being late.
Yeah.
As someone who used to have a job where I had to wear not flattering high-waisted khaki shorts and a polo shirt that billowed out, I felt for that because it doesn't look good on anyone.
No.
Yeah. So Danny chews out Ken for being late. I was having trouble with my scooter. I think you were having trouble with your brain. Yeah. I kind of
Can you report him for like HR or something?
I kind of judged up that line. Imagine if it was more atonal.
Yeah.
As somebody who talks pretty atonally on this podcast. Why don't you dance yourself up to Mr. Sanders' suite and make his bed? Not something that like a dishwasher traditionally does.
No.
Yeah, I definitely at that moment was like, wait, but he's a why?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. At that moment, I'm like, wait, Bernie Sanders is staying at this hotel? The millionaires and billionaires don't want you to dance, Ken.
If he had been a Gen Zer, he would have complained about that's not my job description, so I'm not going to work outside those boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would have supported that too.
Yeah, I wrote here, Danny is so angry that he's dancing with Jennifer.
Yeah.
We're
Danny
dancing,
and Jennifer?
That Danny's jealous of Ken dancing.
Oh,
with
yeah,
Jennifer.
okay,
Danny is so
sorry.
jealous
Yeah.
that Ken is dancing with Jennifer. And I feel like we're missing the scene where that establishes the distinction in our world where dancing is not life or death.
Yes.
And the world of Panama City Beach where dancing is like you eat and breathe dancing.
Right, but it's never like expressed before this that Danny is also a dancer and would also like to enter the competition and is looking for a partner. Like that could have been established so early on. Like, oh hey, let me take your bags to your dad's room for you. He said that you're a dancer. Did you know about this competition? I happen to be looking for a partner.
yeah.
And if they had established that first, and then she sees Ken, and then it's like, there's a reason for there to be some tension with like, she already said she's going to dance with me. It's like, yeah, but she really wants to dance with me. Then there would be some reason for that animosity. But instead, they just made Danny a dick and kind of like incel-y.
Yeah, and at this point, Ken doesn't seem to be interested in Jennifer. They obviously, it's like the sort of unsung
Right.
chemistry between them, but Ken at this point is like, I don't think we should continue
Right.
to see each other.
But even if he had been interested in Jennifer, like, Ken has a dance partner.
Yes.
This competition is real soon. So
we talk about it.
yeah, and so it could be like, hey, you're a really good dancer. I happen to be entering this dance competition. You should come meet my partner sometime. Like, there could have also been a way to alleviate that tension. The stakes here are so abysmally low.
Yeah.
But they don't make us feel that way. Yeah, because like obviously like with dancing you have a partner and that's separate than your personal partner
Right.
in life. But like they treat it like it is a high school crush. It's like, well, you're dancing with her. Oh, you must not really like me. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, they've been practicing. Like they've been established already.
But also the whole, like, your dad's making you go out on a date, so I'm going to be really shitty to you.
oh, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we will.
I have thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to cut to Mr. Sanders' room first.
Right.
And his bed's already been made, so he makes Ken make it again. So not only is he a curmudgeon, he's also loud.
I
Like,
got the
mean
impression
to-
that he hadn't slept in his bed. Not that it was already made. Just that it hadn't ever been unmade.
You are reading into this movie. Like, there's so much depth that you see. This movie is like a reflecting pool to me, and you are like diving into it.
No, keep
I'm
going.
trying to
This is
find
usually what I
something
get.
validating in it.
No.
This is usually what I get made fun of for. So keep it up.
Yeah, this is a movie you can read and get the gist of. You don't even have to see anything. Ken refers to Sanders by a certain nickname that really sets him off. Does anybody remember what that was?
So fast.
Pops.
Yes, he calls him Pops. This will be important later when we find out that Ken is an orphan. Something that's really important in this movie,
Yes.
but is only said like one time.
It's mentioned once and it's
Yeah.
insulting.
Yeah, if this is a in joke that I think it's just between me and Steve, but if anybody has seen the film Black Dynamite, which is like a sort of a send off and a spoof to blaxploitation movies, they make fun of Black Dynamite, the character, for not having any parents in a flashback scene, and one of the characters says, "You're an orphan. That means you don't have any parents." And so every time there was like orphan related stuff, I'm like, "You don't have any parents, Ken. You're an orphan."
Also, like, this is another one of those like archaic
Yeah.
things that, like, David Winters wrote this movie thinking that it was still the 50s. Like,
Yeah.
naming the
Yeah.
character Shotzi, but also then, like, Pops. Like,
Yeah.
the fact that he would be so upset because, like, that's what my son used to call me. It's like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It absolutely was not. But, like, we were so close to using Daddy-O. Like, it was just so much not of the time when
Yeah.
this is said.
It's crazy that no one is snapping in this movie. Like,
I mean, he was in West Side Story.
Yeah.
Maybe he just have so much in West Side Story, he, like, broke his ability to snap.
I would have loved
Maybe,
if there was
yeah.
a dance fight in this movie.
Yeah.
I
There should have been
There
between
should have
Danny and
been.
Ken. Maybe it was
Exactly.
cut.
Dance off. Come on.
Yeah, every dance sequence in this movie was a dance fight between the movie and me skipping the like that part of the movie.
See, the only part that I wanted to see was the dancing.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm the one who wrote like 14 pages on this. Jen meets Ken walking back with the linens from Mr. Sanders' room and convinces him to abandon his job, where his direct supervisor and apparently his the supervisor already don't like him, and show her around the city. So I don't have a question about that exactly, but for the second week in a row, we have a romantic montage.
Well, hold on before you get to the romantic
Yes.
montage.
Yeah.
So, this was absurd. She comes up to him and she's like, "Oh yeah, no, you don't need to do this," and throws the sheets on
Yes.
the ground. And she's like, "It's okay, I'm the boss's daughter."
Right,
and
yeah.
it's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure no one will be upset that you circumvented the processes
Right.
of this hotel."
Yeah, nobody's gonna
But,
hate that you're throwing your weight around having
Right.
just showed up yesterday.
Yeah.
And also, you'd think that she would then go to her father at some point and be like,
Yeah.
well, it
Yeah.
doesn't
Hey,
even
by
seem
the
like
way,
she
I
does
did
do
this.
that.
Right.
By the way, please
Yeah.
still pay him. I
Yes.
made him stop working.
Yeah, well, because
Right.
also like right when he first arrives, Danny's like, "We'll see if you still have a job at the end of your shift," sort of thing. So the fact that Ken is totally fine with just like, "Okay, yeah, you only have to ask me once. I'll take you around the town." And then when they get back, there's never any mention of it. There's never a moment of like, "Where were you today?" Like, if we're talking about places where we could have added some dramatic tension, Danny could have fired Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
That would have established some stakes
Which-
in this
Yeah,
movie.
right,
we were
exactly.
like, we're not doing this movie.
Because-
Yeah.
This is a plotless movie.
So, but I mean, think about like in Dirty Dancing, we have like Patrick Swayze's character is his job is in peril at the camp, and that is where part of the tension comes from. And it would have been so easy to be like, you have to dance your way back into my good graces,
Yeah.
sort of situation, or like he's now dancing on behalf of another hotel. And
yeah, right. The other dance-centric hotel that's in Panama
And
City.
well, that would
yeah.
have made stakes for the father too, to be like, "Oh, I really have to go to this board meeting because we're losing money to that other hotel."
Yeah.
'Cause now
Like-
they have Ken.
yeah. And it's like, at the end, it's like, Ken, please come back and dance for us. Like, if this had been the hotel's dance team rather than just like, yeah, anybody who wants to dance here can sign
Somebody
up.
get a
and get
notepad.
into the
We're writing a
finals.
better movie right now.
Well, this is also the first scene too, where like up until this point, like they told us Jen was rich, that she was well off, but I never saw her like kind of act spoiled. And this was the first scene where I'm like, "Oh, you're a princess!" Like this is
Yeah.
really. And
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
mentioned so many times like, "Welcome to your palace," but she never herself does anything to like. There's gonna be a second time in this movie where she does something, and I will get to that because it's terrible. But like this is really the first time where it's like, "Oh, you may not be a good person
Yeah.
because will he get paid for this? Will he get in trouble for
Right.
this? Are you just making him like not work because of what you want?" And
Yes.
it felt very off pace.
The one thing that is very believable about it is that she would get away with that because her father's a bad father.
And she's a pretty white girl.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
this,
exactly.
ethnically ambiguous
Yeah.
dishwasher
Yeah.
is going to take the fall for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to the movie. Ken and Jen spend their day not working, going on a romantic montage. So I'm going to go around the room and ask you guys to name one of the set pieces that comes up during the romantic montage. So and again, it doesn't have to be in any order. Just kind of describe one of the things that they go to, and it's specifically to this montage during this because there are other montages. I want to make that abundantly clear.
Okay.
So specifically the montage that they go to this day.
Let's go with they are roller skating.
Yep, roller skating is one of them.
Yeah, this is when they're at the giant shark shop and he buys her the necklace.
Yes, they do go. It's Big Willie's Surf and Swim, a real tourist trap that you can go to in Panama City Beach.
And yeah, because like the table is set up outside of the shark's
Yeah.
mouth.
Well, there are probably real customers in there that they're like, you can shoot outside.
Yeah.
Of Big, yeah. And they probably did the other scenes like at the same time
Right.
where the people are dancing with the golf clubs or whatever.
So this is also it ends in the ice cream shop with
Yep.
the food fight.
Yep, yeah, food fight. That's Pink Pelican Ice Cream Bar.
Right.
I have getting into a food fight in an ice cream bar is not cool. Someone has to clean that
Yeah.
up.
Yes, but at first also like they
Not cool.
they start it. There's a little bit of like, oh haha cute, and everybody around them is just gawking at them. Like, did you?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta have a line producer there
Yeah.
being like, just look
Like,
at the person ahead in
they're-
front of you.
They're
Like,
waiting to instigate this
yes.
food
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah.
Or like look at it and react, but it's like they're counting. They're like, okay,
Yeah.
so like she's
so-
gonna throw, and then he's gonna throw, and then we're gonna count to 8, and then we're all gonna start throwing.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we don't see one of the extras like mouthing. They're like,
Yeah.
time yet? Like-
Well, it felt like a lot of these people were from Panama City and just like they probably were just picked off the street. That was a feel I got with a lot of these scenes.
Yeah, that's possible. Well, hopefully some of our friends at Panama City will add that information in on the IMDb page. So you're up.
They Lady and the Tramp a milkshake. They're like drinking out of like both sides of it.
Yes, they share an ice cream float is what I have here, but
Milkshake
milkshake
and then also ice cream?
Yeah, I know. I
Yeah.
put that on. I was put that on my notes. I was like, oh yeah, they went to ice cream twice.
Yeah, there's.
I mean, I have no problem with that.
I guess nobody has to worry about lactose intolerance.
Yeah.
No.
It is a fantasy world where nobody is lactose intolerant.
Sounds nice.
You up?
Okay, there was a scene where I think they either saw like a poster advertising a fight maybe, and so they pretend to fight each other, and then she puts her arm up and is like, I'm the champion!
Yep, imitating martial artists because they see a poster on a wall.
She says, I am the champion of the world. Like
Yeah,
they're
I-
misquoting.
Yeah, I'm the king of the world, and I don't know what the,
But she says, I am the champion of the world.
Yeah.
It's a
So
shame
it's
they
like
didn't give her a second take.
She's combining Queen and Titanic.
Yeah.
Or there's that Roald Dahl book called Danny, Champion of the World, but that feels like a very obscure reference, but that's a children's book.
Yeah.
She did have that drawn on mustache when she had that scene. So, so I think you're up.
Yeah, there's some like sitting on a bench that is distinctive looking enough that later on when she walks by that bench, she's sad.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's like watching the sunset.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the same as the previous one, but I even wrote like distinct enough that it's its own thing. Yeah, because it's like right after they roller skate.
Okay, they go on. I don't know what they're called. They're like these little like sort of ski things in the water where that shoots water out the bottom. and
I
they're,
looked.
like,
I looked
floating.
it up. It's called jetboarding.
Jetboarding.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yes, they go jetboarding, which seems like one of those things where like. I that probably is like a few hours or whatever. They take you out probably on the thing. Like I'm curious about how long it would take to do all of the things in Panama City that they do in the montage.
Might have just used their whole budget on that part too to rent that thing.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 more here. So we'll see if you guys get them all. Or
So I'm trying to remember because I really hope when we're done with this part we talk about the song that was playing.
Oh my god.
I really, really want to talk about that song, but I'm trying to see if this song, because the songs in this movie are like a Greek chorus. They are walking us through, and I almost wish there was a Greek chorus just like in the background while these things are happening, but they walk us through everything that's happening and everything the actors are feeling because we can't tell by their acting. But there were a few things that lined up with the song, but now I don't think I can think of anything else.
yeah.
I think I'm out.
Okay, you want to pass? Do you remember?
They stroll along and kind of jog along the beach.
Yep, I have running through seagulls on the beach.
Yes.
They're like hand in hand. They like scare seagulls.
I think that's the first thing they did. Is like
That is the first thing that they did. Yeah. Or do you have my notes or something? Do you have a guess? There's 2 more things I have written.
Oh goodness. Oh no! I was trying to think of like a Florida political joke. I don't know anything. Yeah, no. I think I'm out. They ride on his moped.
No, they don't
Okay.
ride on his moped
That's a
in
good
this. Do you have any more guesses?
I'm out.
Okay, so the other 2 things that I had written, they go karting around the city.
right.
I couldn't get a hold of our IMDb friend to know if that's also
what's
street
what's
legal.
the speed limit for go-karts on the streets?
No, I couldn't find out. And then after they do their ice cream float, they go outside the diner where there's an Elvis and a Marilyn Monroe. And they both imitate that.
Yeah.
So those are all the things I have written for the romantic montage.
And all of the things that are in Panama City.
And all of the things in this first round. Mo, do you mind reading the scores for the first round?
Certainly. In third place, we have Bob with 7 points. In second place is myself with 9. And in first place is Jill with 11.
Wow.
Whoa.
How much fun was that? Head on over to What Did We Just Watch on your podcast provider of choice to check out the rest of that episode. And we'll also have a link to the episode included here in the show notes. And after you finish that, check out their latest episode where they watch Snowmance. Y'all, you gotta hear this tagline. A true romantic finally gets her chance at the love she's always dreamed of when a little Christmas magic brings her snowman to life. Unbelievable. All right, folks, join us next week for episode 6 of Oops All Bards. Because even on the train, surely as truth remains, we'll be back again. Blue skies. Until next time, everybody.
Another quality podcast from the Porch Room.